This time we'll talk about the importance of proper referencing and citation. Uh, this issue on citation and referencing is an overlooked process. They say that it's often overlooked process because people or students tend uh, to do this at the end of their research or at the end of their writing process. And so today we're going to talk about the do's and don'ts of citing and referencing other people's work in order to ensure that the output's integrity and trustworthiness. We have on board this afternoon is a librarian from the Filipiniana section and the Information Services and Instruction section. Before joining the university library, he was involved in the establishment of the Metro Bank Foundation Knowledge Center as a project associate of Librarianihan Incorporated. He earned his bachelor's degree in Library and Information Science from the UP School of Library and Information Studies, where he is also pursuing his master's degree. So to talk about the value of copyright and referencing, let's all welcome Mr. A.B. Gideon De Castro. Good afternoon, A.B.
Hello there. So, ayun, isang mapagpalang hapon po sa ating lahat. Alam ko po mainit pero please do bear with me as we discuss referencing and citation. So, let me just share my screen. All right, so as what Isa has mentioned earlier, so referencing and citation is part of the academic community, as we know that we need to undergo rigorous training on how to write our academic outputs and requirements. And part and parcel with that are various references and citations. So for this session, to set your expectations as well, I want to be clear that we're not having actually a workshop on how to write referencing and citations, but rather this would be a brief overview on what it is about, its fundamentals and foundations, the essential parts on what we need to consider, why we need to cite, when to cite, how to cite, and what to cite. And in the end, in conclusion, I do hope that I'll be able to share a few, I guess, tips and strategies, most especially to our participants here who are still in high school or even in the tertiary level. So for our undergraduate, college, and university students. Okay. And as for the faculty members here, as for the other information professionals, as well as my colleagues, I guess we could just treat this once again. We could treat this as a recap and review. Okay. All right. So moving on. So first, let's define what is a citation and what is a reference. So let's start with the basics. So citation tends to mean the part of the text within your work wherein you acknowledge the source. So meaning to say, we do citations in a specific body of text wherein that particular statement or sentence is not originally ours. It came from a different author, creator. Maybe it could also be another different institution or organization. We use citations to say in that particular body of text of ours that it's not our original work. So it only serves as a supplementary reference based on its findings, conclusion, analysis, and for whatever purpose. Okay, so citation is basically an attribution to a different entity that it's their work. Okay, and as you may well know, for references or bibliography, this could be found at the last page or chapter of any given book, document, wherein it contains all of the resources used by an author. So simply speaking, the reference is only a list. So both of them coincide with one another. So in any case that you're going to see a citation, it should be found in the reference. Okay, so they're part and parcel with one another. Okay, so moving on. All right, so to give you an example, most of you know this, but for the purpose of this presentation, let's have a recap again. So in my citation, I have here a statement So students often had difficulty using APA style. Let's say, for example, I want to use this particular sentence or assertion in my case study, likewise concerning APA. And this in particular came from Mr. Jones, from a document he published in 1998, and this could be found in page 199. So as you can see, I have enclosed that with quotation marks. So meaning to say, this sentence is not mine. It's not my findings, but I'm going to use this because it is helpful in my particular research. Okay. So another example here, as in the reference, you can see here a pattern, but these pattern differ from one another. So we'll know later on why there is no single way how to write a citation or a reference. Okay, so let's just be clear about that. There are many ways, patterns, and writing standards on how we should write a citation or reference. Okay, so for this example, we have the surname of the author, Stoneman, and then R for his or her first name. So we also have the publication date 2008. Uh, and then we also have the title, which is italicized, Alexander the Great, A Life in Legend, and the publisher, Yale University Press. So this is just actually one way on how you could write a citation, and this is also another way how you could write a reference among many other formats. Okay. So again, the purpose of this presentation is to create awareness among us and understand why referencing and citation is important. So secondly, the most fundamental question to ask is, why is there a need to cite? So can we not cite, or should this be done just in college? Should this be done after college when we are already working? So the answer is yes. So every time you use um, a statement or term or what have you that came from another source, a different source, we need to cite it. Okay, so that's a no-brainer. It should be automatic already. So with that, the intention is to give credit to others to create the proper attributions, and I hope that we will not find a hard time at acknowledging that a certain work is not ours. It's not our original work, and I do hope that we won't have a hard time acknowledging um, uh, that our work was created by another person. Okay, so I hope that would just be clear in terms of that. And in a way, in a sense, citations and referencing gives us or instills in us accountability, right? Not just with others, but also in ourselves. So we acknowledge that that particular resource, that particular reference isn't ours. All right. So basically, we just pay respect to that particular person who managed to come up with that particular finding, with that particular conclusion, with his or her own effort. Okay. And next, one of the most important matters, especially in the academe, is integrity. So academic integrity is a vital characteristic or trait that we should possess, and maybe not even just simply in the academe, but also as a person or a regular citizen. Um, it actually points where our moral compass is headed, and at the same time, the ethics that we live by. So that's why integrity is very, very important. Um, and by exercising our due diligence in citations and referencing, we continue to enhance our integrity regarding this matter. And whenever we write, whenever we submit works or create ideas and share knowledge. Okay. So moving on, because otherwise, if we do not exercise due diligence in crediting it to others, and we exercise intellectual dishonesty, then I think all of us are already familiar with this word. We have already encountered this word, especially these days within the media, and this term is being emphasized in schools, which is a good thing, obviously, is plagiarism. So or intellectual dishonesty. Okay. All right. So let us then define what is plagiarism. All right. So it is presenting someone's work or ideas as your own with or without their consent by incorporating it into your work without full acknowledgement. All right. So meaning to say, even if, for example, I asked permission for my friends that I am going to use their work or our work without even citing it, without doing the proper attributions, without putting it in the references, I am committing an act of plagiarism. Okay, so an act of plagiarism is subject to the rules of the university and maybe even in all academic institutions now, whether it be grade school, high school, or in the tertiary, and most especially in the tertiary level. And these acts of plagiarism have their repercussions. So it might transcend not only through your tertiary education or in college, but also in the academic community or the industry that you will be working for in the near future. Okay, so the impact of plagiarism or being caught with plagiarism is long term. All right, so instead of a lifetime, let's just stay for a long term. Okay. All right, so these are some of the examples of plagiarism, and I think we have already encountered or done this in our lifetime, whether it may be consciously or unconsciously, most especially I think in grade school or high school when we do not know exactly what plagiarism is or what plagiarism encompasses, right? And I hope for the most part we've done this unconsciously, okay? Just unconsciously. So, anyways, first and the most common act of plagiarism is direct plagiarism. Plagiarism. So, as the name suggests, um, it's primarily about copying, let's say, a statement, a finding, paragraph conclusion, a body of text, an image, a paragraph, word for word. All right, so you basically just copy and pasted it in your document and then submitted it head on with the various editors or to your professors. All right, so that's what we call direct plagiarism or doing it verbatim. Okay, so as compared to that, in contrast with that, mosaic plagiarism is somehow elusive because it uses various resources in order to create a single body of summary or finding, conclusion, and text. So one of the common instances you conduct mosaic plagiarism, hopefully unknowingly again, is that whenever you paraphrase or you summarize um, any type of information and putting it in your work without the proper acknowledgement. Okay, so maybe you had the habit of just simply using synonymous terms with what was used in that particular resource, just in order to cut the time, cut you some slack from analyzing and deliberating and creating your own ideas for that particular matter. So that's mosaic plagiarism. Okay. Text is self plagiarism. So yes, you can plagiarize yourself. So how could that be? So let's say for example, I'm writing a research about the academic library. So I wish to submit that in a certain journal article or journal title rather. And then I've conducted also a research 5 years ago about an academic library, and I'm going to put the majority of that content to my present research work without even indicating that I have sourced it elsewhere. So from that work I did 5 years ago. So that's a big no-no, most especially if I have other colleagues, institutions in that particular previous work. Okay. So in 5 years ago, let's say, for example, I have five other colleagues. I've used that without indicating them, without citing them, and without acknowledging or attributing them. That's still a form of plagiarism. Okay. So what I just simply need to do is that I should put that in my references and citations so that it wouldn't cause any erroneous part now on my research. Okay. So next is accidental plagiarism. Okay, so again, this act of plagiarism is usually done unconsciously, but nonetheless, this entails punishment. This is also an academic liability for you because you may be subjected to an academic committee, academic tribunal concerning that act of plagiarism, whether you did it unconsciously. And in any case that you did indeed did that unconsciously, and the academic committee would agree on that, you may still incur, let's say, um, or a minor infraction or a minor penalty on that. Because if you're caught in an act of plagiarism by your professors, most especially if you're excuse me, doing that for a final requirement, I think the worst thing that they could do to you is that you could be expelled from the university. Okay, so I personally heard some stories that a particular person committed an act of plagiarism in his or her final year or final semester in college. He or she is already writing his or her thesis, and then the advisor found out and then brought that up to the higher authorities. And then obviously that particular student was expelled from the university. Okay. And apart from that, stories would circulate that you've already plagiarized something, but hopefully um, we we could learn a thing a two so that we could align our career once again on how to do the right things ethically. Okay, hopefully that wouldn't be the end game for you. No, if you've committed that, because again, it's a mistake if it is done unconsciously. Okay, all right. So moving on. Okay, so when should we cite a particular thing or idea or object or common knowledge? So here are some of uh, scenarios or pointers that we need to take into consider. Okay, so again, this is just one of many instances wherein we need to cite. Okay, so using a statement verbatim, just what I have mentioned earlier, if you want to use something word for word, enclose them in quotation marks, attribute it to the author or authors, institution, or organization. Next is if you want to build on a previous research which was done 5 or 10 years ago, you need to indicate maybe in the background of your study or introduction that what you're doing was already done 10 years or 5 years ago, and you just want to make a follow up on that if the findings are indeed the same or they've already changed throughout a decade. So you need to attribute the fundamental or theory or concept behind that to the person who thought about that many years ago. Okay, so paraphrasing or summarizing, again, if you're going to use synonymous terms, that doesn't mean it's already different. You just change the words. So you need to apply the necessary citations and include that in your reference and bibliography. And another one is introducing information that is not common knowledge. So, for example, there was a study or finding that Jesus Christ wasn't born on December 25, but rather during the summer months. With all the events indicated in the Bible, some archaeological evidences and findings pertain that it happened during the summer. So that's not common knowledge. What we know that Christ was born on December 25, although if you'll go back, it was intended by the Catholic Church to coincide with the pagan celebrations and that they could convert more pagans during those days. So that's not a common knowledge for each and every one of us. Okay, so if you're going to point out a different idea contrary to what is already accepted, please do not hesitate to cite or add other resources to that particular claim or to that particular findings. Okay, so moving on, and you can cite ideas, the original knowledge. You can also cite some artworks as well, I suppose, and other primary sources. Okay, and even interviews. All right. So now that we understand why is there a need to cite and when should we cite and what to cite, how should we go about that? So what do we need to do, and how should we exercise our due diligence? So luckily for us, we have certain tools and resources that would aid us in order to avoid plagiarism. So these are style guides. So basically, these are writing standards or manuals that we can use, and With that, alongside that particular style guide for our references, it also has the citation styles on how we should write that in in a certain format with all the given bibliographic detail or information concerning that resource. So those are the title, the author, the publication date, the publisher, the pages where you got that, the website as well. When did you get that? Uh, the DOI as well. It's all included in this particular style guide. Okay. So what are those style guides? So these are some of the style guides commonly used in our academic classes, most especially when we are enrolled. So again, this is just a few of many. So the APA, American Psychological Association, the MLA, Modern Language Association, and the Chicago Manual of Style. So as you can see here, the style guide that you're going to use depends on the subject matter or the discipline that you are going to write about. So for example, we have APA here. If you're going to write anything concerning psychology, education, or the other social sciences, linguistics, political science, geography, and others, you need to use the APA format. So and as for MLA, you have the humanities, so language studies as well as culture studies. What you can use is the Modern Language Association. Okay, and third for the Chicago style, we can use that for history, the arts, as well as in business. So again, the writing standards in all of these three style guides sometimes are the same, but for the most part, they are different from one another. So how will we be able to know the standards or how should we write the references and citations using these style guides? Okay, so the answer to that are these style guides. So these are manuals. So the latest edition for APA is the seventh edition. For CMOS, it is the 17th, and for MLA, it is the ninth edition. So I hope that for the librarians who are here with us today, we do hope that you have these resources, whether they are in print or non-print, in your respective libraries. So as for the University of the Philippines, we have the APA handbook as well as the Chicago of Manual of Style online. So you can easily access that through Open Athens, right? So if you don't have these types of resources, I would like to share this particular reference that I use that I used to practice how to write APA, MLA, or Chicago manually when I was still in my graduate study. So the Purdue Online Writing Lab by the Purdue University. So you can put in this link, owl.purdue.edu. Okay, so it is free for all. You can access it anywhere. And what's important in this website is that you could view APA, MLA, and Chicago. At least those are the three common, right? So at least you can view them, how to write the in-text citations, as well as the reference list based on, again, the detail or information that a particular resource has, and how should you go about it in different kinds of formats. So I don't know if you can see it in your screens right now. I think it's a bit small. So you have here how to write a reference list about articles in periodicals, other print resources, other continuing resources, electronic as well as audiovisual media or interviews. So it depends if you have a single author. There's a specific way how to write that. If you have multiple authors, if you only have editors, um, if there is no publication date, you can use this particular platform in order to understand and view that. Okay. So I hope that you managed to get that. So again, let's go back to the previous slide. So again, that's owl.purdue.edu. So this is from the Purdue University. Okay. All right. So at least you'll have, or at least you'll understand the basics on how to do citations and references. Okay. So moving on. Okay. So in closing my short presentation, I want to emphasize and I want to leave this with the high school students who are present here with us, if there are some, as well as the college and university students. So if you're still in high school, I want to encourage you to practice as early as now on how you would write citations, how you would apply them in your academic outputs while you're still young, you're still in high school, alongside the references. And you can use the resources that I have mentioned, those style guides, those standards in writing, as well as owl.purdue. Because eventually, if you're going to make this a habit, I assure you, you will have an easy time when you start in college or the university in submitting work. And most importantly, you will develop um, muscle memory, right? So in looking with the title, the author, the publication date, and the publisher, you would be able to arrange that immediately into an APA, MLA, or Chicago format. So that would be very useful. Next is that I encourage you also to observe various resources, how they write their bibliography or references, as well as their in-text citations. Okay, so I want you to pay attention to detail if you wish to learn about references and citations. Okay. And as for our university students, let you've already decided on the program that you're enrolled in, and hopefully you've also decided on the industry you want to work with in the future. So I guess it's important to understand the style guides in that particular academic discipline of yours, going beyond APA MLA in Chicago. As I have mentioned earlier, those three common style guides aren't the only style guides available. We have style guides for various disciplines. So we have AMA for the American Medical Association style guide for the medicine, the ACS, the American Chemical Society, for document if you want to wish and write documents in chemistry. So I highly encourage you to advance on that. Okay, so and pay attention on that. And lastly, I encourage you to use the citation generators in our online subscriptions. So most online databases already have citation generators available in them. However, I want you to exercise caution and again due diligence in using them, because they are not 100% perfect. So there might be an update released without you knowing, or there may be wrong with the algorithm on how they would be placed. So I want you to pay attention on that particular result and cross check that with the existing standards of writing in our style guides. Okay, so yeah, so that's it for my presentation. I hope you've learned a thing or two, most especially for the people or individuals who are not familiar with this. And as for the ones who are already in the intermediate and advanced levels in citations, and if you're already using reference management software, I do hope that you've been reminded why we are doing this. And apart from that, I guess the important takeaway is that we need to be accountable with what we do, and we need to be accountable to others as well. Right? Right. So that's it. And I think we can now answer some of the questions that we have in our slide only.
All right, we actually have a lot.
All right.
As always, when the topic is citation and referencing, there are there's a handful of questions. There are also recurring ones, so you're probably familiar with most of these by now. AB. So let me share my screen. Okay. So we ask them to upvote the questions uh, that they want us to prioritize. So let's see if they did. All right. So we have 12 questions. I think we have enough time to answer most of them. So let's start with the first one. Are you ready, AB?
Yes,
Can you
Isa,
see
are
my? Can
you?
you see my? Of course, because you're the
All
one
right.
answering them. So,
Yeah, I get.
um,
Kita ko naman.
yeah. Let's go to the first question. Does self plagiarism apply to unpublished works? For example, using information submitted in one subject for another subject.
All right. So I think this one depends, because if it is an unpublished work and you wish to publish that, this is the first time you're going to publish that, right? However, um, yeah, I think you can still use that, but I think the lines are blurred here if it's still considered self plagiarism if you take it to that extent, because so far if it's an unpublished work there is no existing published work before that. And maybe you can add a few of your cents as well, Isa.
All right. Yeah, the straight answer would be yes. It is considered self-plagiarism.
Yeah.
If you submitted um, a work from your previous class to your other class, especially if you treated it as a new work with no effort to, say for instance, um, paraphrase or change the ideas or bring something new to the table, as we always say, then that is considered self-plagiarism. And that's most people would argue that it shouldn't, right? Because it's your work. Yeah, except that if you submitted it to as a requirement for a previous class, for example, then of course your professor knows that these are ideas that you had at that time, right?
Yeah.
And we're certain that you have so many ideas, so there's no need to resubmit work. There's no
Yeah.
need to how do you say
Yeah.
rehash your work.
Yeah. And I think I think there are you can use another different idea. So there's no need really to copy and paste, let's say your answer or from your homework one to your homework two, most especially if they are in the same discipline. So again, that would measure your moral compass and ethics. So
Mhm.
that's on you. Okay.
Right? Yeah, because you will know, right? If you will know if you're already committing self-plagiarism. You
Yeah.
will know. Okay, let's go to the next one. Is it possible to cite a whole book without having to indicate the section or page number?
Um, for the most part, I seldom encounter books with no sections or pages. But in any case that it doesn't have any, then it depends on the particular style guide. If what should you put, how you would format it in the references. Okay.
Yeah, because it really depends. Is this an issue of missing information? Like, is the page number not
Yeah.
available?
Yeah.
But of course, you have to, you should endeavor to look for the
Yeah.
information so that you have
Definitely.
something to put.
Yeah, definitely if it is a book, let's say for example, napunit yung page. Obviously there are other copies that you can use, no? So just that we need to find ways.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Find ways. Because there is no way that the whole book is just one page. So,
Yeah,
it's,
definitely.
yeah,
Yeah.
it would be questionable. So, let's go to the next question. Paano po mag-cite ng isang author na sinite lang din ng reference na ginagamit mo po? So, yan. Once, ano to, lagi itong tinatanong and may debate din sa Isais tuloy.
Paano po mag-cite ng isang author na sinite lang din ng reference na ginagamit mo po? Uh, I'm not really familiar how you would put that, no, on that particular order, because I can't memorize the entire style guide. Kaya I refer to these style guides, no, every now and then. So I can't claim to be an expert in using that, no, for na kaya kong i-cite siya kagad. But I think you could cite it. I'm having trouble understanding this. So I think Ma'am Amy wishes to say something,
Sure, sure.
and
Ace.
shed on light on that.
I think he's trying to talk about secondary citation. Meron naman yan. How APA or MLA would treat secondary source citation. So, hanapin na lang nila. Indirect citation tawag nila doon. Halimbawa, A.B. De Castro as cited by Isa Palaya. May ganun. Meron silang form for that.
All right.
Right.
So thank
Thanks,
you,
Ma'am
Ma'am Amy.
Ace.
So there's a way. So there's an answer to that. So rest assured.
So what you have to remember is that every time this is the case, you have to cite both authors, the primary and the secondary, of the primary and the secondary source. Or look for the original and then cite it directly. Pwede din naman. I think so. Miss Maria Margarita Lavides is raising her hand. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Hopefully she can unmute. Ayun, okay. So
Hello?
mukhang pwede
Ma'am,
naman.
actually, nasabi mo na, Ma'am Aise. Gusto ko lang idagdag na, kasi nung nagpi-PhD ako, yun din ang advice laging sa akin ng aking supervisor, na as much as possible, hanapin niyo yung original source. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Any
So
other
dapat-
insights from our audience?
So I guess you need to be somehow of a contact tracer really in searching for the original work. So anyway, sige. Thank you po.
Tama po. Okay, let's go to the next one. Ay, sorry. Tago ko muna to. Okay. Hello po. Would it be necessary to always consider putting the date when the article was retrieved or accessed in the reference? Thank you. Kailangan daw ba nandun?
Yes, so you can indicate that I think in APA format, retrieved, and then the particular URL link, and then the date or retrieved from. I can't remember, but obviously there is a pattern, and you need to indicate that.
Oh, in the latest APA guide, I think you're no longer required to write retrieve from. You can just directly put the link. Preferably DOI nga.
DOI.
Kasi some links die.
At least yun hindi siya nagbabago eh.
Right.
So
So let's
seldom
go
magbago. Anyway.
to the next one. Can I be liable for self-plagiarism if I incorporate a section of my class paper in my other work? So nasagot na natin to.
Yes. You are liable.
Yes. Okay.
Most especially pag gumagamit siguro ng Turnitin yung professor mo.
And that your paper is also there.
Mm.
Oo, kasi makikita niya. Nakamukhang kamukha. So let's go to the next one. How accurate are the available citation and plagiarism tools online? Can they also read the local papers? Thank you.
I'm not sure about a quantitative amount if it is 90%, but what I can say for Turnitin, so I think I can only talk for Turnitin kasi yun po yung ginagamit namin sa UP. For the most part, malaki yung coverage niya as an online subscription. So it encompasses other outputs as well, and then maybe other media outlets. So I think there's a great chance that if you're going to use from even an obscure journal or not that obscure journal, I think you would be flagged.
Yeah,
For the most part, they're accurate.
yes. Because if the local paper is published online, then there's a fat chance that will be flagged. As for
So that's a good
citation
thing.
tools, what do you think, AB? Citation tools such as yung mga BibMe, yung mga online citation tools, what do you think? Are they reliable?
About citation tools, yes, kasi may sinusunod na silang format originally eh. But again, please exercise due diligence. So in class, we have a cite this function there. So we already added a warning that this particular citation is not 100%. So yun.
Correct. O, due diligence na rin yun.
Let's be cautious.
All right, thanks AB. Let's go to the next question. Natawa ko agad. Magandang hapon po. Is it highly advisable to use the citation generators available online? By the way, you look like Tony Labrusca po. Hehe. Go AB.
Do I know this person? Anyway, yeah, you can use a citation generators again just to minimize, I guess, the time if you're going to put it. However, again, exercise due diligence. I think no system is perfect on that end. So exercise due diligence. If you're going to write that in the paper, hopefully maisaayos nyo ng maigi para pag isa-submit nyo, let's say for example, a thesis advisor nyo, at least mababawasan yung intindihin nyo in editing and formatting all those in your reference or bibliography list. Ayun.
Right. So it pays to know, it pays to be familiar with
Yes.
the citation styles kahit na merong mga citation.
Uh,
O dun sa
ah,
isang
I think Ma'am Amy wants to add to that as well.
yes, Ma'am It's.
Banggitin ko lang no sa regarding citation generators. The accuracy of citation generators would also depend on whether the correct information was encoded or inputted there. For example, nung nag-check na kami ng mga lumang publications ng UP sa mga citation generators, minsan mali yung pagkakaintindi nila. No, sorry, tama yung sinabi nyo, you have to do due diligence when using citation generators. Kasi for example, sa atin, Pasay City would be a place of publication. Sila, hindi nila, yung mga citation generators, hindi nila naintindihan, minsan nalalagay nila yan sa author because they're not familiar with it. So, nasa sa atin pa rin yan. Also, I think, hindi ko maalala kung kanino ako nag-PM, kay AB ba or kay Aisa. You can use the citation,
sa
the
akin po.
reference function ng MS Word. No? Madali na doon. You can go online and look for how to use the reference function of the MS Word. Pwede nyo gamitin doon APA, MLA, Chicago style. So, enter lang kayo ng enter ng data regarding any of your citations. And then you can generate your bibliography and whatever else you need for your paper.
Right. Thanks, Ma'am Ames.
Right. Thank you for sharing that experience po. And I think Sir Dan and Ma'am Ray already shared their 2 cents concerning the matter. So, yan. Maraming salamat po.
All right. So yes, as mentioned by Ma'am Ames, you can use the reference function of MS Word. And also, we have another topic on citation tools. So tune into that as well so that we can dig deeper into the use of citation tools. We have Mendeley and we also have EndNote. We have subscriptions to both. So you might want to maximize it, especially if you're an enrolled UP student or an employee of the university. Okay, so let's go to the next question. Ito, how would I cite a really long article? I tried to summarize the article, but it was difficult because I needed most of the information in the article.
All right. So, I think in APA, you could put that entire paragraph while applying an indent, a 1/2 indentation, if I remember correctly. Other than that, if you do not want to summarize or paraphrase that, and then just put the citation. So yeah.
Or break them into parts. Pwede
Break
din
them
naman,
into
no?
parts. I think I did that during the past.
Kasi hindi mo naman may iwasan na talagang ang dami mong
Mm.
gustong isama from
Yeah.
an article. If it's a good one and it's really relevant to your topic. Kaya lang, meron naman mga styles that would allow you to like do a block quotation, for example. Usually kung 40 words, ganyan. So, a block quote would help. Then for the rest, we're gonna break it down and then relate it sa ibang sources para hindi isahan lang.
Yeah. And I think for some of them, you can also apply footnotes, no, depending dun sa style guides. And
style, yes.
dun sa ibang journal articles, ganun yung ginagawa nila pag mahaba. Sa bottom, lagi may footnote.
Right. Okay, let's go to the next one. What do you consider to be the acceptable percentage for plagiarism reports via Turnitin, for example?
All right. So as for Turnitin, for the percentage for plagiarism reports, I don't actually really have an acceptable percent. I think should be below the least amount as possible, I suppose. But then again, I think in the previous training, there might be instances wherein the system would flag you for plagiarism even though it is your original work. There will be instances like that because it is really similar to a previous content and it's not necessarily an accidental plagiarism, no. So it would really be subject to your professor or what have you. But in terms of acceptable percentage, I think it should be as low as possible. Ikaw, Aiza, how about you? What's your take on this?
Actually, wala pa kasi tayong existing na guideline for it,
Mm,
eh. It has to be
mm,
an agreement probably between the
mm,
faculty and siguro the student or another, halimbawa yung disciplinary body ng university, di ba? Kung ang goal natin is to avoid plagiarism, then there should be an agreement. Merong mga suggestions as to mga specific percentages. Yung iba sinasabi 15%, yung iba sinasabi
oh, yun,
20%.
yun.
But yun nga, again, since wala pang guidelines, it should depend on the professor or the teacher.
And I
Kung
think,
ano yung,
Sir Dan already mentioned that, yeah, you might have a high similarity report nga from having maybe the same ideas or using other synonymous terms, I guess.
yes, correct, oo. Kaya kailangan talagang mag-cite. It's so important to cite your sources kasi kahit na lumabas na mataas yung percentage, if it's properly cited, then, it's not a red flag. It's a flag, but it's
Mm,
not a red flag.
mm,
So, and then also, there's the issue of Turnitin not always
yeah.
being reliable, no? Kasi nga, ako sa experience ko, pati oras, pina-flag ng Turnitin. Like yung 9
Mm.
a.m. to 10
It's not,
p.m., for
it's not a
example.
perfect system.
Yes, exactly. So, again, do your part of the work. Okay? So, let's go to the next one. Do you need to cite your sources in every line of your paper? Where can we use EBIT po? Anong style guide daw ginagamit?
So they need to cite your sources in every line of your paper. I think not necessarily. So as long as you attribute that particular sentence or statement, I guess uh, that would suffice. That would do. Pero in terms of that, I think yung ibid in the same place, I think that's Chicago meron yan eh. However, I can't really recall on that end with Chicago for using ibid.
And it's already outdated. It's no longer di na siya suggested. There is a different approach to resolving yung problem na yan, that the the issue on citing your source in every line of your paper. There's already a different approach to that sa Chicago Manual of Style.
Oh.
Pero EBID is no longer um outdated na siya. It's an outdated style. So, go
Obsolete.
to CMOS. We have CMOS online anyway. So, there is a specific section there talking about how to cite your source. Yung meron doon kasi na sa first line, and then usually sa dulo, saka mo pwedeng i-cite ulit. Hindi naman kailangan every line. I already forgot since it was mga months ago na. But yes, you can go ahead and check CMOS online.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so let's go to the next one. How to properly cite information not written, but you hear from someone or
That's a bit
heard from someone. So,
that's a bit tricky, but maybe it's an idea that you heard from someone based on an original work. So I think you could search for that particular original work and then work your way down from that. Or I don't know, that's my understanding. Maybe you heard someone talk about it, say a theory or such, and then you want to cite that. So try first searching or expending all your resources in finding a similar work or resource concerning that subject matter.
oo, and saka you have to also contextualize it. When you say
Tama,
you
Sir
heard it
Dan,
from
Marites.
someone.
Marites 2022. Tama si Sir Dan.
Sasabihin ko na yan.
Thank you
Pero,
po.
ayun, is it a marites that you heard it from? Or is it an interview? Or is it a spirit communication? Meron naman mga ways kung paano yan i-cite. Oo, punta ka lang
Oo.
doon sa specific na citation guide. Makita mo yun doon.
Mm.
Oo.
Pero if it's a hearsay lang, parang where's the credibility in that if you're going to use that as your reference? Yun nga, unless it's an accepted term or accepted theory or idea siguro.
Mhm. Or baka naman common knowledge yun, hindi ka
Common
lang
knowledge.
aware pa.
Yes. Si Miss Maria ano din would like to give her idea on the matter.
Sige po.
I think she can unmute. Sana makapag-unmute siya.
Ayun.
Ay, okay po.
Opo. Meron kasing format na personal communication. Yun yung research nila. Oo. Yun yung tawag, personal communication tapos may details. Yun yung tawag sa format.
Spirit communication yung sinabi ko kanina. Yeah, personal communication. Sorry. Ayun, you can search for that.
Thank you, Ma'am Maria, for
Thank you
shedding
po,
light on that.
ma'am. Sige po. Alright.
Possible,
Pero meron
yeah.
kasi talaga yung spirit communication yung sa mga ano ba yun? Basta, oo. Anyway, let's go to the next one. Is there a need to change citation styles in different fields?
Alright, so I think it boils down on the organizations who decided this, no, or institutions tulad no APA and MLA and others, because they are the ones who can easily determine what is acceptable and what is understandable in their community. So let's say for example sa ACS, they have a way in doing things. So obviously it would not be applicable to others because they themselves can easily understand that now on their own perspective and so I think that's just basically it.
Okay. All right. So, yes, because different fields require different information, different details. So, hindi naman lahat kaya ng Chicago. Hindi din lahat kaya ng APA. So, it's important to look for the most appropriate citation style for your discipline. So, for the behavioral sciences, it's APA. Yeah, Chicago history, hard sciences. So, let's go to the next question. What is the most used citation style po and why is that the case?
Again, it depends on the field or discipline. However, ako personally what I learned first is APA. I think when I took a particular class, our professor emphasized first how to use APA just to get again no yung parang a knowledge about referencing and citations. But if you want to be familiar with referencing and citations, I suggest learn first APA. So para magamay niyo yung format.
Right. And yun. Totoo. APA is more common. Siguro pangalawa MLA, no? Kasi meron din tayong mga like sa mga creative writing sa humanities. So, all right. Let's go to the next one. Bakit po parang iba na tong tanong but let's answer it. Bakit po iba-iba ang terms of access ng mga students from different UP campuses?
Terms of access in Open Athens or sorry, I get lost in that question.
I'm guessing online resources.
Maybe online subscription. Okay.
Oo.
I think for the most part it should be the same, especially for yung ating system-wide online subscriptions, right? It should be accessible. But if you have any trouble, try first contacting your librarians sa inyong campus.
Right. Yun. Tama.
Kasi this may be another issue of yung organizational status eh.
Right.
So if you took your undergraduate in UP Baguio and now you're pursuing your graduate studies in UP Diliman, there is a chance that your Open Athens or UP Mail account is still affiliated with UP Baguio. So you need to inform us or the university or CU kung saan kayo ngayon nag-aaral na ipabago yun. So to apply the necessary changes.
All right, thanks, AB. Let's go to the next one. Ito, interesting to. How do you put in-cite or in-text citation? Before the period or after the period? Example, she ate an apple. Tapos in closing parenthesis, Marites 2020 period, or she ate an apple period. Tapos pagkatapos nun, tsaka lang yung Marites 2020.
Usually after the sentence before the in-text citation.
Oo, yung period.
Oh,
The period has to be after the in-text citation. Tama ba? Kasi kasama siya dun sa
yeah.
sentence eh. Oo. So
Yeah.
it's the
I easily get confused with this, honestly.
it's the former. Yung nauna,
Mm-mm.
she ate an apple. Ay, ba't tagalaw?
Ay,
She ate an
wala.
apple.
Ay, ayun.
She ate an apple, in closing parenthesis yung in-text citation mo, then period. Kasi nga, sinasite mo siya. So, part siya nun. Nung text. Kaya in-text citation. Diba?
Alright.
So, let's go to the next one. Some journals require to use recent references only. Is it okay to cite a recent article that cited or used the old article instead of the original one?
Is it okay to cite a recent article that cited or used the old article instead of the original one? Yeah, I think it would be okay for as long as you cite it. Pero yung original talaga, that's what's important eh. Because that's the source of the original work.
Oh, kasi recent naman yung article na sinasite mo eh. So, ano rin yan? Case din yan ng pagsasite ng dalawang sources, primary and secondary. If not, look for the original. Endeavor to look for the original.
It won't be a bother if you're going to look for the original source.
All right. I think we're running late. We're already behind schedule. So let's just answer.
Yeah. Oo nga.
Siguro one more question. Kasi itong mga to nasagot na to, yung tungkol sa Turnitin, okay na yan? Where can you access Turnitin? If you're from UP, ano lang to? Nasa, ano tawag dito? If you're an enrolled student, then
UVLE?
Oo, meron siya sa UVLE. If you're a staff, then you can ask us, no, from ISAIS, staff of UPD. Okay? If you're from another UP unit, then communicate with your librarian from that unit. Okay? Good. And then, okay. Sige. Ilan pa ba? Grabe, ang dami pa kasing tanong.
Pero
Oo, so last na siguro to, no? Itong question na to. Considered po bang plagiarism kapag pinalo ko yung thought but cited the references the article used?
Sure, if knowingly you used that particular article or reference and then you hindi mo siya inilagay, siguro that would be considered as plagiarism if knowingly.
Okay. Ayun. Tsaka yung pagsunod sa thought, plagiarism yun. Oo, kasi sakto eh. Eksakto pa din
alam mo nang may sinundan kang thought or idea. Alam mo in the first place. So that should be a case of plagiarism. So
Okay.
cite lang.
Okay. All right. Okay, so that's it. Don't worry, we'll still answer your questions. As I've mentioned in the morning, just check back later for the answers to your questions because we don't have enough time to answer all of them since masyadong madami. So that's it for now. Okay? All right. So thank you, AB, for leading
Salamat
this
po.
discussion on citation and referencing. Hope our audience learned something new about citation and referencing. Sabi nga natin, lagi naman itong issue natin, no? Lagi tayong may kailangan matutunan because citation styles change, our needs change, So we have to continue learning.